Que pasa, gente? It's your homegirl Jessica Jeans. This is the Late Night Hustle, and we're continuing the series here for National Hip Hop Month during the 50 years of hip hop. And we have been touching on all of the elements of hip hop. We've talked to the battle MC, we've talked to the art of lyricism. We've also touched base with so many elements of hip hop, and of course, we had to talk to one of the best breakers in the world, and we got him right here in Houston. And we've got Moy Rivas in the building. B Boy Moy, thank you for being here.
What's up, everybody? I appreciate being here. It's always a great time being back at the box.
Yeah, man. So I mean, you've had a big relationship with the box on different levels,
right.
And often we've actually done interviews with you before, talking about Break Free hip hop school. So
That's
you
right.
actually have a hip hop school. But before we get into that, I want to talk about, you know, your journey with breaking and everything that it has done for you, and everything that not only what it's done for you, but what it's done for the city of Houston, what it's done in the culture, what it's done for Latinos, what it's done for just people worldwide. Let's talk about how did this all start happening for you?
I mean, that's a long story, but, you know, the journey's been beautiful. Listen, I fell in love with breaking in 1995, being at a middle school talent show right here in Southeast Houston. I went to DD Middle School, saw some friends come out on stage that I did not even know were dancing. Saw them coming out, spinning on their backs, walking on their hands, spinning on their heads, and I was just like, I want to do that. And long story short, I didn't even want to be at the talent show. I got invited, and how I got convinced, a couple of my friends were like, hey, you need to come through. And I was like, no, I want to go home. It's been a long day at school. And they were like, well, there's going to be some girls there. And I'm like, well, then lock me in. So, you know, I'm glad I ended up staying for the whole show, because I saw some friends come out, and it really changed the direction of like what was happening in my life. And you know, if I could say something was divine, that was very divine for me, because
what were you doing? What was your life like?
Yeah, you know, during that period, I mean, you know, there was a lot of gang activity, a lot of drug activity, and you know, I was very fortunate to know what's right and what's wrong, so I've always kind of steered away. But, you know, being in, you know, from the Southeast and certain neighborhoods, you know, you kind of had to play your role and be part of some of the groups that you shouldn't have been part of at the time. And so it was really God sent for me to find breaking, because it really was that positive alternative that changed my life. It really just kind of steered me in the other direction. I'm thankful for it every single day. And I know it sounds very corny and cliche, but it's the absolute truth. I mean, who knows what could happen within the next 3 to 6 months. I mean, early on, I had friends that were literally dying, I mean, and getting shot, or, you know, going to jail. I mean, a lot of different things happening. I know we hear these stories a lot, but these are factual things that were happening during that period. And so, saw the talent show. I literally go home. I made sure all my homework was done, so my mom would not yell at me for what I was about to do next. So what was next is I literally go to a store that was maybe 2 or 3 blocks away. At the time, this store was called Eckerd's. I go to the back dumpsters.
Eckerd's.
Yeah, pick up some cardboard boxes, and I walk 2 or 3 blocks with boxes that were way bigger than me, and I was just dragging them, go to my backyard and just start taping them up and start tagging them up, putting on music, and, you know, started getting on my hands and rolling around the floor, having no idea what was going on. But I saw these pictures of what it was supposed to look like, and in my head and with my body, I was really just trying to mimic those movements. And I was a little familiar with it, because my older brother Julio Rivas used to break in the 80s, and he used to be part of a crew in the Southeast from Manchester called Future Shock, which, you know, the box's own G-Man was also a part of that group as well.
I heard this story. So G-Man was a part. He was a breaker.
He was a breaker. Wow. And this is a true story. And so I had that little kind of historical influence already, because I've had those pictures since I was maybe 4 or 5 years old. And so when I got the opportunity to do it again, I mean, it really just changed everything for me. I wanted to do it every single day and be the best. Like, I really wanted to be the best. That was the only thing that was embedded in my brain.
Now, this was before YouTube. This was before, you know, having access to just video. How were you getting, like, better at this? Were you watching? Because there was movies out. Yeah,
of course, all the movies helped. Breaking 1, Breaking 2, Beat Street. Beat Street was a big influence. But, you know, at the time, it was just kind of our own community, you know, friends that were getting really good at the dance, and, you know, us being so competitive with one another, wanting to be better than one another. And then we got a hold of a tape from a friend that had a cousin living in California. They came down visiting Houston, and this was a tape and an event called B Boy Summit. It was on VHS, and so we put on this VHS tape, and it was a copy from a copy from a copy. So it was super pixelated, all fuzzed up, you know. And we saw breakers from around the world at this event, and that tape really changed the course of breaking for us, because now we had something to model after and really see that you can do this at different levels.
Wow.
And that was the first time I got introduced to Rocksteady Crew, who is, you know, a very significant crew within the breaking culture and the hip hop world. And without the Rocksteady Crew, a lot of us won't be breaking today.
Right. So some of the famous people that came out of the Rocksteady Crew?
Crazy Legs, Ken Swift, Easy Rock, Mr. Wiggles, Pop Master Fable, Burn. I mean, there's the list goes on, and these are very iconic figures within the dance. And if you're a newbie to breaking and you don't know these names, I would really suggest you go and sit down and put some time and energy to really just finding, you know, these deep roots, because, you know, without these people, we wouldn't be breaking today.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because, you know, one of the main things that I like to do here on the Late Night Hustle is, you know, it started with Hispanic Heritage Month, and, you know, knowing that hip hop has influenced Hispanics in a lot of ways, a lot of Latinos, but also vice versa, right? Because we've done a lot to impact the hip hop community, especially when it came to breaking. So Absolutely. A lot of these guys out in New York all have Latino in their blood, right? And so I think that that's an important thing to mention, because still to this day, it's so impactful, and it's also given us a chance to look, I see myself, you know, and I could do this too. So it's been very influential, right? And it's been kind of like a role model thing when you're able to see, you know, people like yourselves that are taking breaking on another level, competitions. Breaking has taken you all over the world.
It has.
So when did you actually see that, you know what, this is not just something that I'm doing for fun, this is something that I'm doing like where I can get paid, and this is going to be something I can do worldwide?
Yeah, so, you know, like I said, I started breaking in 95, and around 97, 98, I was already like, you know, probably alongside my crew, winning every single event that was within the Texas existence of like whatever hip hop events or breaking events or whatever you want to call them. And I remember when we started hearing about these other events, B Boy Summit, freestyle sessions from, you know, across the nation, we were like, we got to get to these events. And in 1999, I literally just turned maybe 15, 16 years old at the time. I think 16. And there was a big, massive event called Freestyle Session. It was their 2-year anniversary, and we showed up and literally changed the course of our journey, really inspired breaking at new levels, because, you know, when people found out that we were from Texas, people thought, and this may sound like a joke, but this was absolute truth. When you're in the West Coast or in the East Coast during these time periods, everybody thought that if you were from Texas, you were some type of cowboy.
Right. You ride horses over
there? Yeah, that's literally like the only thing that they had embedded in the brain. So here we are, some young kids, and we go out and compete with the best crew in the world, first round, and we beat them. And that was the first time I did this move called the air flare, which at the time there was maybe probably 2 or 3 other people in the entire world doing them. But to see some young kid from Texas really take that move to another level really changed the course of breaking, and also my personal journey within the breaking culture. And I remember literally coming back home, and I had just recently had signed up for an email and was sharing my email a lot while in LA for this event, and I came back and I still remember the number. I mean, I had about 108 emails from people that wanted to you know, just invite me to different countries or different events across the world. And that moment on, I was just like, whoa, like the impact and, you know, just feeling the love and the energy that everybody was like, you know, showing towards me. That made me feel like, okay,
You're like, I'm good.
This is something. I think this is something, and I'm going to run with it. And whatever that is, if it's inspiring and impacting people worldwide, then let's go. And so that even pushed me to even work even harder at whatever it is that I love. And that's why, you know, a lot of times, even during school and all these, like, I was very just like, zoned into like taking care of everything what I need to take care of, because once I got home, that was my time to break. That was my time to get better, and I didn't want nothing to distract me from saying I can't put more time into breaking.
Wow.
And so literally by 16 years old, I was getting opportunities to travel all around the world, all expenses paid, getting paid.
So you're, I mean, 16 years old, and that was what I was going to ask. Like, how did you fund this? You know, how you're 16, how are you traveling, and how are you making this happen? So this was all off of competitions.
Yeah, I mean, the easiest way I could answer that is just God, number one. Two is just being blessed with a strong work ethic, and people, and three, people just seeing what I do, and I never had to fund a trip in my life for breaking.
Wow.
And it's been pretty special, and so there, I say that now, but I've traveled to 75 countries plus, again, all expenses paid, getting paid. And there's been a lot of moments where I'm just like, I gotta stop this. This is too much for me. And then literally when I pray about it, or if I want to stop doing it, like, boom, I wake up to like 10 more emails of like, hey, can you go here? And I'm just like, okay, I guess I'm not done yet.
So what's like the craziest or like the most, I guess when it comes to competition, and like, because I've heard like places like Japan, and that they got some real serious like, breakers out there. Where's been maybe the toughest competition you've had in the world?
Definitely Japan. I think traveling for the first time, Japan was like the best spot and the spot to travel to. And hence why I've been to Japan so many times. I've been to Japan 29 times.
Wow.
Yeah, I started going there in the early 2000s. Probably 2000, 2001 was my first trip to Japan. And it was my first overseas trip. And just the discipline, the culture, the talent is just on another level. And then I would say within the past 10 years or so, I would say Eastern Europe has really been the kind of the top notch world for breaking and competitive breaking. And so it's growing. There's so many resources now. There's so many opportunities. I mean, there's kids that are doing things that just I couldn't even dream of. And it's
how much has evolved.
Yeah, it's just evolved so much. It's just spectacular. It's impressive. And for myself today as an ambassador of the culture, I just want to make sure that I provide whatever resources I can, and also just kind of the historical knowledge of what I've been through and the experiences that I've been through, because those experiences are what people need. Anybody can learn moves, they can learn the grooves, they can do all this stuff. But to be able to share the knowledge and the experience from historical data or things that have happened in the past, I think that's something that, it's just going to be so hard to come by.
Right.
So, anytime I get the chance to talk to students or anybody that's getting involved, new enthusiasts to the culture or whatever, it's just like, you got to go back and like read this entire journey, like review this entire journey, because it'll make your journey that much more special.
Right. It kind of reminds me of the way that, martial arts, right? When they're teaching martial arts, it's like, it's more than just the moves. It's more than just the battles. It's more of like a way of life. To make sure that you have that positivity is coming from a good place and know the history. So, and speaking of that, like you pour into the community. So you've traveled the world, and then you bring it back home, right? You bring it back home to Houston, and that's where I first learned about you guys over at Break Free Houston.
Yeah.
And I actually took a class. I took a DJ
That's
class.
Right. That's right.
But I did see, a lot of the breaking students, and these were children that were learning breakdancing, and it was just so fascinating to me. And then when I found out it was a whole school, like a legitimate school where you're teaching the elements of hip hop. So if you could touch on Break Free.
Yeah, early on coming up, in the late 90s and early 2000s, it was very difficult to find positive spaces where you can kind of express yourself freely and get down. Everywhere we got down, we got kicked out because we were looked at as thugs, or it was just, part of some type of negative activity, or it had negative connotations, or whatever, whatever you want to call that.
Yeah, we talked to Gonzo about the same thing with the graffiti art.
Exactly.
Like, it was just looked as, these punks are here,
but we're just really trying to do something positive with our talent. And I remember being about 15, 16 years old, and I remember having dreams of like, if I ever got an opportunity to build something that is a dream center for people like myself who love breaking or love hip hop, I'm going to do it. And in 2011, summer of 2011, I really got more desire to pursue that passion. And so I opened Break Free doors in August of 2011, just with the idea of providing a safe and structured environment for people that want to express themselves freely through hip hop culture. And so everything that I've learned within the breaking culture, I just wanted to share it. And then anybody that I knew within hip hop, whether they were graffiti artists or DJs or MCs, I wanted them to kind of be part of this network, and we create a space where everybody can learn about this beautiful culture that has really changed our lives. Because we always used to say, if hip hop done it for us, it could be done for you. Woo. Right? And so it was that moment that like we really just started to scale Break Free and open more locations. So now we have several locations, and we continue to expand. But Break Free is just a tool. It's just a vessel and a platform that allows for kids that are maybe struggling to find their inner selves through a different sport or a different extracurricular activity. Maybe breaking is that one special thing. Maybe DJing is that one special thing, like the way it was for us.
Right.
And that's what we've gotten from a lot of our parents. And so that's what Break Free is. And fortunately for us, we've been blessed that Break Free is taught by the best and people that have not just picked this up 5 years ago.
Right.
This has been our whole lives. I mean, there is 100 years of knowledge within the Break Free facilities.
Wow.
And real knowledge, commutative or whatever, but it's real knowledge, and this is not, these are not guys or Joe Schmoes that have walked out the street and picked this up for the love of like the last 2 years. I mean, this has been 29, 30, 35 years of experience, and we're very blessed to have that within our walls. And now we're building new generations of breakers, DJs, MCs, and graffiti writers.
I love it. And you guys do so much for the community. You've come out to some of my events,
right.
And just always pouring into the community in different ways. You guys have events of your own. I pulled up to some of the stuff that y'all are doing. Y'all have different competitions. I've seen even awards that you guys do worldwide, online. Like, you guys are just touching all corners of the earth with breaking, and it's incredible because now you've also become part of the reason why the Olympics will have breakers this year. The Summer Olympics, right? How did that even happen? Were you in a meeting? Did they come to you? How did that go down?
Yeah, so I was part of a very small group of maybe 6 to 10 people back in late 2016, where in the conversations of this potential future for breaking was around on the horizon, and that was can it become an Olympic sport?
Wow.
And so we kind of just got all together and found ways to see what we can do to standardize how breaking can be looked at, how it can be judged, and how it can be put on different platforms that help elevate the culture and help elevate the dance for the better of everything, right? The treatment of the athletes and or the artists or whatever you want to call them. And so there were just simple conversations that led to just much more positive action. And in 2018 was the first time breaking was on the Olympic platform at the Youth Olympic Games in Buenos Aires. And I was one of the main judges there, and also an athlete role model, which I was selected by the president of the IOC, Thomas Bach, to become that, to represent our sport or our dance.
Wow.
And ever since then, that's when, okay, can this really become something that we could put on the official Olympic stage? And so there was a lot of different, trials and things that we had to go through to make sure that, breaking was prominent enough.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things that led it at the 2018 Youth Olympic Games in Buenos Aires was, I remember we did an interview, and it was right before, and it was myself and another beaker. Her name is Beaker AT from Finland. And they were like, okay, you guys are going to go after Tony Hawk, because he's going to talk about skateboarding now being an Olympic sport.
Ooh.
And I was like, how do you follow up Tony Hawk? So our interview actually had the highest ratings over Tony Hawk and over any other interview that existed.
Whoa.
And that sparked a lot of interest with the IOC, along with the amount of people that were at the actual event during the games, at the Youth Olympic Games. We had the biggest crowds, and we had the biggest of everything. The president of the IOC was only supposed to sit down for 15 minutes of it. He stayed for about 6 hours to watch the entire competition, just because he was so captivated with what was happening, and the respect levels that kind of hip hop creates. And now we're here, and now it's in the Paris 2024 Summer Games, and a lot of amazing things happening for the world of breaking.
I love it. I love it. I mean, that just goes to show, like, I mean, we're talking about 50 years of hip hop.
Right.
We're celebrating 50 years, and you've been a part of most of those years.
Right. Yeah.
You've been putting in work for a very long time. But like a legend in the game, like when you talked about the Rocksteady crew, and the impact that they've made on you, but now you actually stepping in those shoes, right? And you being that person, and we're lucky to have you, that you're from right here in Houston, and the things that you're doing for the community here, the things that you're doing worldwide and making a difference, and everything that you have done with breaking. We had to bring you in as we're celebrating this National Hip Hop Month, and so that's why I wanted to have you here tonight. Because we have one of the best in the world. I mean, Moy Rivas, B Boy Moy.
Thank you, guys.
If you haven't heard the name, where can people find you so they can see your work, they can see what you're doing with Break Free, and keep in contact with you?
Yeah, you guys can follow me on social media at B Boy Moy across every single platform, BBOYMOY, or at Break Free Worldwide, or at Break Free Houston.
All right. Now, I know it's been some years, but can you still do that famous move that you did?
Absolutely.
You can?
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
All right. You're going to have to put that on an authority one day.
Yeah, we'll do that.
All right, man. Thank you for being here on National Hip Hop Month, celebrating 50 years of hip hop, all the elements of hip hop, and we celebrate the breaker. Thank you, B Boy Moy.
Had a great time. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.